Today, we're looking at a purple ink by Herbin Poussière de Lune. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, down below in the description, there's timestamps of all the parts of the video, and if you are in a hurry, you can skip around, but if you got the time, I'd appreciate you if you check out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Nimicine Singularity. I write with it for a day. I then used it to take the notes for this video. For the first writing sample, I use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is just right about the same as the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does have a peppering of shading throughout here. Spots that are a bit darker, I think they might be here, but harder to see for the thinner lines than here. 5 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows no color variation, the scrubby of the medium shows none, and that's how it worked in the writing sample. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and there was none. And Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some nice spots of shading throughout. Very nice to be able to see those darker letters jumping out from the writing. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Some darker letters throughout, not tons, but definitely there. Definitely noticeable. Look at the BR in brown, the X in fox, the K in quick. The word the is much darker than the word over. 4 seconds to dry. Now medium is darker a little bit than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It still offers some shading. Look at what's going on in the word brown, in the word fox. It's there. It's just much darker to look at than the extra fine. 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both do show some color variation left to right, and we do get it in the writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this really is a very nice purple ink. Now you do see it start to form a line very immediately in the first one. And then there's a little bit of separation between where it started to bond and what's moving up. And that's kind of odd. But it does look like it's the same ink where it's sometimes just bonded with the paper and the rest moved. But very interesting, at the very, very tip top, it looks like there's some little bright blue spots across the very top line of where that purple has stopped. It's just interesting, makes me feel that that's where some of the shading might be coming from. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now, not as much of that purple has pushed its way up as the first one, but ultimately this looks very much the same as the first chromatography. The line on the bottom is slightly darker, and on the left quarter at the very top, you see a tiny little bit of what appears to be a bright blue in only one little spot. It's just one tiny spot of it. But it does look like there's 2 dyes used to make this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel very good using this in a note-taking situation. Yes, that extra fine turned to about a fine medium, but it's perfectly readable. It really is intact, which is surprising, with J. Herbin usually being so easy to clean up that you would expect it to go away. Water is completely reactivating. You see white of the paper coming through. Yes, you see plenty of the purple still there, like the second chromatography, but you see the white of the paper coming through, which means water is all that it takes to get this out of your pen, and it's all that it took to get it out of my pen. Now, pen flush appears to be doing less than water did, and this could have to do with how I was sopping it up, in that I held the paper towel there a little too long, holding some of the ink in place. But you're not going to need pen flush to get this out of your pen. I didn't. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, completely remove it from your arsenal of cleaning things from pens with this ink. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Now I'm going to link a video where I show how I test it and how I calculate the data. J. Herbin's Poussière de Lune has a viscosity of 2.47, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. J. Herbin's Poussière de Lune has an average dry time of 6 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like J. Herbin's Poussière de Lune, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice brown, and I chose Diamine Macassar. The second writing sample is done on Fabriano, Apica CD, and Nemesine paper. Here we're looking at Fabriano paper. Fabriano Echo Qua, just because I like saying the name. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, a couple spots of shading in it. Extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of dark letters throughout. We can certainly see that there's shading available, which this paper quite frequently tames so far down. 3 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice spots of shading throughout the writing. Again, this paper is so good at taming rough inks that getting the shading to come through is very nice. 5 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both do show good color variation, and we do get it in the writing. About Apica CD. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading throughout the writing, with 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show us good color variation, and it's the same color variation that we're getting in the writing. And Nemesine notebooks, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. And I'm looking at that, and I have to take off what I said on no shade because I'm looking at the word lune, where it's a mid to light to dark tone. I don't know why I said no shade. The E in day, the E in Poussière, the dots, the H and the N of Herbin. So there is shading here. Medium extra fine is same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice spots of shading throughout. You can certainly see the spots where it's a bit darker or a bit lighter. 3 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the fine, or the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice shading throughout this writing. 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we got good color variation in the writing, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of J. Herbin's Poussière de Lune? This is a very consistent writer in a lot of pens. It's not a horrible purple, yet for some reason there's something about this ink that makes me feel let down when I'm looking at it on the page. So I don't see myself getting a bottle of it, but I am happy that I tried it as a sample. What nib and pen is going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A dry pen is going to make it look very watered down and dull on the page. You need to use a medium or wet pen in a medium to broad nib in order to get your best version of this color. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.